the northern Ural Mountains, a group of 9 students of the Ural Polytechnic Institute embarked upon a difficult winter expedition to reach the Oborton Mountain. Their journey seemed to progress according to plan. However, on the 7th day of their trip, the weather conditions worsened. They lost their orientation and were forced to set up a camp on the slope of a mountain called Koletsiakla. It was their last stop. 3 weeks later in Yekaterinburg, when their families received no word of their success, the first rescue expeditions were sent. On February 25, 1959, an abandoned encampment was found. The tent was torn down and covered with snow, with all the group's belongings left inside. The surrounding footprints indicated the crew had fled the tent. They were barefoot. This suggests a frantic escape characteristic of people scared out of their wits. 2 sets of prints led to a forested area down the slope. The rescue team found an improvised fireplace and 2 bodies. They were lying only in their underwear, with cuts and scratches to their limbs, suggesting they tried to climb the tree in panic. What could terrify them so much? The next 3 bodies were found scattered a few hundred meters from the first discovery. One of them had suffered a fractured skull, despite no evidence of a struggle. It took the spring thaw 2 months later to enable the rescue team to find the rest of the victims. The last 4 skiers were found buried in a thick layer of ice and snow. Their autopsies led to even more bizarre findings. All of the bodies had severe internal injuries, caused by an undetermined force, similar to that of a serious car accident. No external damage nor bruises were visible, besides a tongue ripped from one victim's mouth and a strange, orange skin color. Many speculations arose from these puzzling events. Such theories included the attack from the local tribesmen, from an avalanche, or animals. Each theory, however, only served to create more questions. The truth behind this tragic course of events remains unexplained to this day. What really happened? After the Soviet Union ceased to exist in 1991, we can now learn more about Dyatlov Pass incident from a Russian secret document. There used to be experiments of the Soviet R-7 ICBM in the area. First, the group of students arrived at the Ural Mountains, and Yuri Yefimovich Udan was left behind due to illness. Then, the rest of students arrived and decided to set up the camp whether they were lost or not. On their way, they heard a loud peal from the Soviet R-7 ICBM, or Soviet airplane experiment. When the air vehicle flight passed the camp, or near the area, the students were curious about the air vehicle, and hence took some picture about the yellow fireball. In the night, the peal of the air vehicle felt much louder, and the students obviously had no idea that the missile or airplane would pass by. As a result, they believed that it was an avalanche that caused the loud peal, since the peal of a missile is similar to the noise of the avalanche. For the mountain climber, they were more likely to have a confirmation bias about the danger of avalanche. They immediately cut the tent from inside to run away as fast as possible, and some of them were so afraid that they didn't put up their clothes. That's the reason why the tent was cut from inside and all of their luggage was left inside. Under the moonlight, it was hard for them to identify the direction, especially in the forest. In fact, the avalanche didn't happen because the tent was intact and the police could find their footprints when the police arrived. After the peal stopped, they finally realized there was no avalanche at all, and they found that the extreme weather had become their biggest enemy. Without enough clothing running in the snow under -30 degrees, they had to set up a campfire and looked the other 4 companies who had gotten lost. However, the campfire was not warm enough to keep them alive. After 2 of them were killed, others decided to take away their clothes and climbed the tree to find the camp. Unfortunately, none of them made it back. The other 4 people were more likely to fall down a steep cliff when they ran away. At first, I thought that the experiment failed since the serious internal damage is very likely from the shock wave. At first, I thought that the experiment failed since the serious internal damage is very likely from the shock wave. Comparing to human bones, the parenchyma can stand the shock wave. But then I realized that most of the evidence shows no sign of the explosion. Even though there are signs of slight radiation, it might from the Soviet nuclear experiments or Chernobyl disaster. Therefore, I think they are not killed by a shock wave. The only problem is the missing tongue. Personally, I believe that it is the Soviet government cut it from the girl, since the reaction of the Soviet government was so strange. In the beginning, they assigned many soldiers and spent much time in rescue because people believed that it was just an accident. However, when the last 4 students were found, it was impossible for the policemen and soldiers not to find the mysterious death. Then, most of the official reports became classified or disappeared. When the policemen found the fireball in the sky, the Soviet government immediately stopped the investigation. In the Cold War era, when the Soviet government realized that the research would reveal their secret weapons or technology, they decided to hide the truth.